Welcome, everybody. Welcome. You are joining Elaine Bartlett at the Purple Portal today. And first thing out of the box is Happy Lions Gateway Day. And I hope you passed the initiation of yesterday's full moon, which is still kind of in effect, of course, today. A bit on the wane, but thank goodness wasn't coupled right in with today's most powerful energy. So we've got a Lion's Gateway today. We've got a cosmic galactic portal activation gateway today. And we've got a year, which is a galactic activation portal. So if you folks aren't sensing large changes either in these past few days that have come upon your awareness, if you haven't, then they're right in front of you. And if you're absolutely closed down and your diet sucks, well, then you cannot experience what's here for each of us. So I can only suggest to you very firmly, keep clearing your nutrition. It is one of the key pieces to this. We've also, as of yesterday, stepped into the cycle of metal, and what that means is autumn has begun energetically. And I know for those of us in South Florida, and the humidity's high, and I think so are tempers, etc., it's like, really? The first day of autumn was yesterday? And even in the Northeast, although somebody did send me a photo of their fireplace that was happily running yesterday, so I think there was a little chill in the air. When metal cycle reaches, we're going to have a lot to talk about that today, but I see there's a caller on the line. Hi there. Hello.
Miss Sydney.
Hello, Miss Sydney. How are you?
Coming in with a roar. Just looking forward to getting some guidance because I really want to change directions in a big way. So
okay, well, all right. The guidance, what I'm really figuring out, and finally what a couple of people have actually validated for me, the answers are not outside of us. So it requires extreme discipline to go within and then trust what you're hearing. Because this Lion's Gate actually, it itself has increased waves of light and actual higher codes of awakened consciousness. They're talk about being beamed up. We are being beamed up with higher consciousness, and it's streaming onto the planet. I think if we could, well, I know we actually have the gift of doing this, but some which way, because we're so gooked up with conditioned thinking, and that's pretty much the extent of it. It's our gooked up thinking and conditioning that prevents us from actually seeing these like fingers of light, such as you could see like if you're driving and it's a very hot day and energy is wafting up from the road, or sometimes in the evening you sort of see almost what I call fingers of God being beamed out from either the sun or the moon, whichever. Mm-hmm. That we have that ability to see it at all times. Now, it was truly exacerbated on July 26th when we stepped into this new galactic year. It's doubly extenuated and exacerbated today because of this gateway. And I just find it remarkable that galactically speaking, the gateway is aligned with a portal which of itself is enormous. Wow. So we're receiving this, and a lot of it's actually coming from two sources, Sydney, the sun itself and the sun behind the sun. Now, I've spoken of that sun a little bit. It's something that even very, very few scientists have been able to tap into it, but they know of it. So there is a presence behind the sun. So this increased light itself is causing huge life-altering changes. And these changes are going to unfold one way or another. And as I understand it, for just about everyone. Now, I think about this just about everyone, and then I kind of take a step back and go, yeah, just about everyone, except those who have their head in the sand, their hands over their ears and eyes, and they don't want to know. And that's their privilege. And I've learned to let them be. It's okay, because it's just not the time for them to know. Mm-hmm. And, you know, as I was driving here today, I had an NPR on for a few minutes, and they were, oh my goodness, if they beamed out over their broadcast once, it must have been a half a dozen times, the impending danger with North Korea. Oh. Okay, fine. There's impending danger all around us, and I certainly don't want to make light of that, because I'm sure there's probably some merit to it. And if that should, God forbid, happen, some people are going to have to leave the planet. Mm-hmm. But the rest of us can simply begin making relationship changes. And that means your relationship with number one person on the planet, yourself. It's time we start seeing the God within ourself. It's time we look from there to, obviously, the next person on that chain of life is the mother. Sisters, our siblings that are sisters, actually. This is the feminine ray. Grandmother energy. And start correcting all of these relationships. The odd thing is, the truth is, there's nothing to correct outside ourselves. Mm-hmm. But, so that's step one. Once we start just owning the fact that, yes, I need to do me. Matter of fact, I was speaking with a dear friend actually, she's now down in Florida. You know her, Sydney, by the name of Renee. For years, whenever we speak, I've simply said, geez, Renee, you have to do you. I just wanted to jump through the phone today because she said, gee, Elaine, I know that I just have to do me. And by the time she's put that into play, after many years of really, we resist that because it seems too simple. Her daughter has changed. Her son has changed. The grandbaby's about to be healthier. Her husband has changed because she's doing herself. Oh. And she's dropped the need to do anything else. And it's not in a selfish way.
Right.
And then that triggers career changes, a redirection of life purpose. And life purpose, for those of us that remember that we're not on the path, that to me is old news. You're not on the path. You're never going to be on the path. It's technically impossible. What's not impossible is you are the path. Yeah. And when we embrace that posturing, I am the path, well then how can I be of greater service in life? Where is there a sense of helplessness and hopelessness? And what do I need to do about it? Your health changes. Your home, well, I know in your case this isn't a stretch. Your home may change. Yes. Travel opportunities, soul work, letting go of conditioning. Because it's our conditioning that I can fully identify as that's the sticking point for many people. So with this gate today, everything is up for review, not just in Sydney's life. Sydney's the trigger point for the call, kids. Everything is up for review in every one of your questions, in every one of your questionings about yourself. And the biggest question behind this, when you start reviewing your life, is, does what you're shifting serve your authentic truth? And most people are afraid to look at that, because what is my authentic truth? And that's anything that's authentic is in alignment with your soul growth and your actual sensation of ascension. You're not going to be beamed up. Now, I've said that several times in the past few weeks. The only beaming up is within yourself. And that beaming is beaming into the higher awareness, and then you can see much more clearly the higher order on the planet. So everybody, don't be surprised if something or everything in your life that seems to be in flux right now. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, these changes that we're each going through, myself included, in our own unique way, and that's important for you all to understand. I'll go through changes, and you might be going, oh, I want to go through the changes she went through, or, oh my God, I don't want to go through the changes she went through. But in my unique way, they serve me. And it will allow me to align more fully with my truth. And now I fully get it. Aligning myself allows me to enter, if you will, or not enter, that's not the right word. Align with, maybe that's a better word, with the next consciousness of love and light. Yeah. I can't get any more because I'm already it. I'm already 100% it. My conditioning says, no, you're not. Get over yourself. Who do you think you are? That's my conditioning. And the other part is, oh, Lord, I am not worthy. I can't be that. You're that. It's interesting. Over the weekend, I had a magical opportunity, which I'll share more of once you and I hang up, Sydney. But somewhere in the midst of the experience, a gal became aware that I'm an empath. And so she kind of came right up to me and right in my face, that she actually transgressed a comfort zone where somebody's too close to you. And it's very uncomfortable when somebody does that. So I took a step back, and she was like, tell me something. Whoa, that is not what somebody like me wants to hear at this point. And unfortunately, for myself, it hit a trigger point. And the trigger point was, I really wanted to get into conflict with her because it was that uncomfortable. And I thought, this is a riot. Let me take a there's like several tapes running the same time. Wow, I want to punch her in the nose. And the other part of me is saying, back off, because there's nothing happening here, so let it go. But her conflict point in my face was, well, and sorry, I don't want to offend anybody out there, but I found this extraordinarily divisive and not a good idea, especially in a large group of people. Her point of view was, along the lines of, my master is so-and-so, and I serve so-and-so, and I'm not the creator, and so-and-so is, and that's whom I serve. And I'm like, alrighty, now, you've heard me speak of this master because I have great respect for this guy. He walked the earth 2,000 years ago. He is cool. His total message, almost completely, has been bastardized by the likes of that kind of conversation because he was nothing about separateness. And so where do you go with this nonsense, right? So when she's denying the fact that she's the creator, I simply said, well, have you had any children? Whoa! This was the wrong thing. So she looked at me. If she could have spit on me, she would have. There was such disdain. And I have to say, I was not strong enough in that moment to immediately dismiss it. But even though I'm sharing the story, and you may think, oh, no, she's still attached to it. No, I've done the right work because especially this morning, I really reviewed the fact that, but there is no me. The me is false, and that she is false. And underneath her belief system, underneath her conditioning, her divisive, separate conditioning, I really understand and embrace the idea that she is that, and I am that. So it's through working it through that we get there. So I took you all through the exercise so you could see. Sometimes I want to be in that space that is absolutely non-combative because it's so pure. It's like breathing in pure oxygen. And so that's why I would do the work to get right back there. And yet, stuff is going to happen that we feel separate. But Sydney and everyone listening, when you believe you are separate and different, you're going to have to drop it. So, and I know change isn't easy. We've been programmed since you were in your mother's womb, because we pick up her programming. And she's, of course, picked up her mother's programming. So, and it's frightening not knowing what's going to happen and what's next for you. Especially when things feel uncertain or they're falling away and they're crumbling. From what I can understand and what I can see, things are now crumbling and falling away for each of us as individuals and on the collective scale. And we chose to be part of this so that we could be part of this big falling out.
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm. So the message of this Lion's Gate is one of keep trusting. Keep returning to a vibration of love, because that's exactly what my little exercise had me do. I had to keep returning to a frequency of love, and I had to release my fear. And I'll tell you what my fear was. It wasn't for her. You know what my stupid-ass fear was? Excuse the swearing. My dumb fear was, she doesn't like me. And she's judged badly against me. And it gave me a very uncertain, wobbly feeling. And it kept me unfocused from my ultimate goal, to see her not as who she was, but to see her as the God that she is. And whatever she does with it's none of my business. Right. So this gate today is about keeping in mind that you are a spiritual being. I'll tell you, one of the triggers that now gets my Irish goat running around in circles is when somebody tells me, geez, I'm only human. Ooh. As the nuns would have done, kind of come over and slap them on the back of the hand with a ruler. You're not a human being. You're having a human experience.
Yeah.
And these shifts and changes that are happening are here to serve each of us to align more fully with our true soul power, our true spiritual path. And that will bring us increased joy, creativity, love, the opportunity that we want, the possibilities open, the gateway swings open. Yeah. So it's a huge time. Does that help you, sweetie?
Yeah, I'd rather just somebody say, here, this is what you do next, because I'm just so bombarded.
Yeah, I understand.
Like someone just stole something out of my car just now.
As you were sitting in it? As you're sitting in it?
No, not as I was sitting in it. I've actually had problems, so I actually put a piece of luggage and I put a lock on it. And there's been someone who's been, clearly has been trying to emotionally do damage because things have been stolen out of my car, CDs and books. And so then I put a piece of luggage and put a lock on it, and I go to do something today and the lock is gone. So that's worse than taking something. It's like, ha-ha, I was here. This is not going to do anything. I got it off, and ha-ha.
Mm-hmm. Is this in your parking lot again, Sydney? Is it in your parking lot?
Correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so and the police they're not taking me seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all very frustrating, and I think you start off by saying doing what we know how to do, and I just need to ask the landlords to indeed leave, have them commit, and I'm notorious for jumping around, but this is not okay because inside the house and inside the car, things are not safe. So,
are you taking some pictures of these things so that you have a good documentary to share, like this was here, and so that there's some hardcore show and tell?
Well, one would think if you put a lock on it, you wouldn't need to show that you put a lock on it, that they didn't take the one off the back seat piece of luggage. But it's making me now, I have to take absolutely everything out of my car. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. It's changed who I am. Mm-hmm. It has influenced who I am. It's changed who I am. It's maybe I can't walk out of my apartment without locking everything up in my apartment. I have to assume that it's public, even if I'm going to be gone for a half an hour. Mm-hmm. So, I'm just exhausted over all that. Why is this pattern happening? That seems to be happening to me. It just, and I'm, to fight an unknown. This is a faceless, nameless, someone who's just leaving history that I then have to I have to decide how to deal with that. And so, yeah.
Oddly, I read a very interesting parable, I think it was either this morning or yesterday, about a fellow who would consistently lock everything before he left his apartment, before he left his job, and people began to question him, like, don't you trust anyone? And his response with great love was, I trust everyone. I simply don't want them to be exposed to suspicion. So lock the things up so that there's nobody who's suspicious, because that's a drain on your energy. You don't want to allow the other person to be suspicious. I live in a safe spot. I lock my car. I don't want to put that on anybody that, I left my car open for a minute. No, I'm not going to have them go down that pathway. So see if that sort of a reverse approach can't lift this a little bit. If push comes to shove, you'll have to ask your inner guidance, okay, is it time to move? You got a birthday coming up fairly soon, believe it or not. Yep. That may trigger, okay, time to go.
Well, I started taking things out a couple of months ago because this is uncomfortable. It hasn't stopped.
Okay.
And it's just getting worse, and it's invasive, and all that other stuff. So, and today, it being the Lionsgate, like, I do hope the energy's shifting. Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to an event that is to hopefully have more protection and guidance around such weirdness.
Cool.
But I'm I guess too tumultuous to want to have to even make my own decision, about it or whatever.
Yeah. Get back in nature. Get out to nature. I know you're very good with nature.
Yeah.
You know that trick. Yeah. So we can talk more, honey, but I'm going to cover a lot today.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
All right. So thank you for calling in, and we'll talk soon.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Okay. Bye. Bye. So for any of you that would like to also contribute today, any which way or another, especially if you've had a shift over these last 3 or 4 days and you just want to give a little insight about it or shout out that, yay, something shifted, it's 321-806-3159. I feel like I'm in overdrive today, so I'll say it again slowly. 321-806-3159. And you're very free to reach out to me on my email, which is purpleportal777@gmail.com. You're also free to schedule a private consultation, which does really help to lift and shift things. So there's lots of ways for you to be lifted up and over some of the dilemmas out there. And they're out there right now. Okay, so we've got today, well, actually it was yesterday, we've stepped into the Earth Monkey cycle. We're out of the 30-day window, which was a transitory cycle. So we're out of that, and we're into now more of a kind of a more grounded cycle, bringing in constructive use of your thoughts. Let me just take this caller. Hi there.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you? It's Michelle.
Hello, Miss Michelle. How's it going?
It's going. It's going. It's funny that you're talking about shifting because something happened to me this afternoon.
Okay, go for it.
I was driving home from driving the kids all over, and something just came to me that said, you have to love yourself. And that's never happened to me.
Wow.
And I had to embrace it because it was just a very powerful message for me.
Okay. You know, I hope you all heard what Michelle just said. She actually, I don't know if you heard the beginning of the show, she just validated everything that was kind of going on here with me sharing my friend Renee, who in slightly different words has come up with the same thing. And I'll tell you, Michelle, this gal Renee it's been sinking in, and I think that's what happens to us. Things sink in slowly in their own way, not to overwhelm us. And so it's been sinking in for 2 years to the point where everybody surrounding her now has the message because she has to love herself, and she's doing it.
Yes.
So you got the memo. You got the memo, and it's sinking in.
It was just so powerful. And again, it's like never really happened. And I sat down with a cup of coffee, and I really sat there thinking, this really happened to me, and I did get it. And then I started listening to you, and then I'm like, I have to call you and tell you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Because I believe in what you do, and you've helped me so much, and it was just amazing. It was amazing to hear that.
Thank you.
The fact that I heard it.
Yep.
Because a lot of times when we don't hear it, we just let it go.
That's right. Or it's so subtle that you can't quite catch it.
We miss the sign.
Yep. Good job. All right.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you for calling in. Much love.
Thank you. Same here.
Bye. Bye. All right. So with today being actually day 1 of autumn, although it started yesterday, it's like today's the first full day. And when we've got the introduction of metal has to do with your lungs and processing sorrow and grief. So for the next few months, you may be processing a lot of those emotions, and go with it and embrace it, and don't be afraid of it. Yesterday, as the day was turning, somebody emailed me from New York area, and she finished up with, this is a mommy of 4 or 5 children, I don't remember how many now. She finished up with, I'm so hopeless, everything is hopeless. That would land right on her lungs. It was so powerful to me. Here's what it did for me. I honestly thought, I have to go book a trip to the Northeast immediately, because I cannot abide by hopelessness. I see where it leads, and it's not pretty. Hopelessness, it's a funny thing, again on this little 5 minutes of NPR, it just happened to announce today 30 million, that would be 30 million people in the United States of America have clinical depression. How did this happen? How have we lost our joie de vivre? Where'd it go? Have we become so drugged out and so stressed out and so burned out that 30 million people are you? So any of you listening up in the Northeast, please understand, I will be up there at the end of August and the first week of September. It's going to happen because I just don't know I don't know what to do about this other than come deliver. It's like, FTD delivers flowers. I'm coming up and I'm delivering hugs because this is too much for my gentle heart. And it's too alarming, and it's so emotional for me. We have to be available to hold each other's hand. And that's why I stress so often with you, those of you who are strong enough to do the work and change your nutrition and eat properly and, cut out the alcohol and really take an active interest in your health every which way. You should have umpteen tools in your toolkit of life. We need them. When I taught feng shui, it was like, okay, you need this ringy-dingy and put it over there. Well, guess what? In these last ensuing years, I got more ringy-dingies than I probably know what to do with. And they're not all about feng shui. They're different modalities. So, and in my own case, guess what? I have really taken a stronger and stronger interest in my own health. And as I do that, gateways swing open. Depression lifts. Insecurities are banished. So those of us who will go that route, dang, we have the opportunity then to give those hugs, to give that word of encouragement. This gal has been in bed for almost a year with children under the age of 15, however many of these little munchkins there are. I don't know about you, but I've raised a son, and I'll tell you what, when he was a little boy, there was no way I could have taken a year out to be in bed. And I'm sure you can relate to that, you mommies. And she was so despondent that the greatest gift I gave her, I actually pulled out one of my tools. I pulled out my favorite oracle, the cartouche, because she had me jumpy. She'd been to Western medicine, and they did some procedures that did not take. So her hopelessness was that, God forbid, she'd be finished with this journey. So to prevent her terror, I thought, well, my gosh, I better take a look. I was so relieved. I'm like, oh, sorry, you're not going anywhere. Well, we both had to laugh because my approach was such a back door. Oh, no, sorry, you may have thought you could go home now, but you're not going anywhere. You're staying put. She just about had a meltdown. So I don't care what we've got to do to give each other the hug. First of all, do you. Then keep your antenna up. Okay, now that I finished with that little sermonette, I have a caller on the line. I'm sorry if I'm bugging you all today. It's just we're each such a critical piece of what's going on. And without you and me and even the helpless and hopeless ones, what are we doing here? All right, amen. Yes, hello, caller on the line.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, Elaine. Good afternoon. It's Nancy calling.
Hello, Miss Nancy.
So it's interesting because you said there's been some change in the last few days, and I have definitely felt something in the past few days. Almost, it's not like I'm sick. I just feel a little off. I just don't feel quite right.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been working lately, especially being home again, and that's always been an interesting challenge, and just watching myself, watching the stuff that comes out of my mouth.
Okay.
I can see the judgment or the control.
Okay.
And then I'll stop myself. There was an issue with a friend, and an animal had passed, and I had spoken with her. She didn't like something I said, and then she had texted me and wanted to talk about a friend of ours that recently passed, Jill, who you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I simply texted her back saying, I haven't made peace yet with the conversation, and as you would say, haven't dropped it yet.
Okay.
With the conversation we had, and I just briefly touched base about it. And I said, so I don't want to talk about this other situation at this time,
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. So, I didn't want to get into anything. I didn't want to judge. I didn't want to dump anything, and yet I didn't want to, because I knew I wasn't ready yet, have another discussion that may lead the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So I just try to let go.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least lovingly say what I needed to say, but without saying anything.
You know what, to Nancy and everybody out there, I have found pretty much, I don't need to say much of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's the healthier way to go. Yeah. I'm realizing if I don't dilute my energy by addressing something I didn't want to address in the first place, it's remarkable. I have that energy available for the right situation, which could be 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
So we're both learning, say less.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And, I think we'll have a little chat maybe tomorrow. How's that? Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, good. Welcome home.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, I'm not home yet. I'm still here.
Oh, you're still, which here, East Coast or middle of the country?
Middle of the country.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, we'll have a chat.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye. Here's another thing that, honest to goodness, you would think I was addicted to this radio station. I'm normally coming up here, I absolutely have nothing on. But for some reason, you all needed a lot of this stuff, which I thought, because it tapped into something that was happening to me over the weekend on a humongous learning curve, which is why I will be taking this information to the Northeast. It's so huge and not really, I can't even process it yet. But at any rate, NPR had to say this about, they interviewed a guy from Germany, a scientist, a microbiologist, who was talking about the microbes that live on your kitchen sponges. Now, I've heard this before. Some of you have heard it before. And I sort of promptly dismissed it. And I thought, oh, you know what? I can put the sponge in the dishwasher. I can put it in the microwave and nuke it, and everything will be dead. And I am such a clean freak that, there's probably a half a gallon of Palmolive soap on there anyway. So what he had to say was, your microwave and your dishwasher actually could possibly be doing more damage, and they're making some of the bacteria that's living on these things worse. I'm like, oh my gosh. And again, the interviewer was very good with this guy, and kind of like, what's a girl to do kind of thing. And so here's what this guy humbly suggested. And I'm going to say that to the very end. I could picture when you see all the porous little openings in a sponge, can't you just kind of envision these colonies of critters just having a field day in there, one feeding on the other, off the other, and any little food particle that's trapped in there? The vision was so grim, but it certainly left an imprint. And so now I will be doing exactly what he said, although I actually don't use a sponge that often. I use an old-fashioned thing called a dishcloth, and I wash it every day. So here's what he suggested for you spongers. He suggested that you get rid of them at least every 10 days, at least. And if I were going to go back to the old sponges, and my mom used a sponge when we were growing up, I can remember thinking back now, those sponges could be around for about a year and a half until they totally disintegrated. And nobody ever thought of throwing them away or thinking, what could possibly be living in there? Because you rinsed it out. It's good to go. So I did have to share that with you because, whoa. And one other thing from this same thing, and then I promise you, I did turn off the radio because that was enough. When they were speaking of this number of 30 million people with clinical depression, it was because they were actually speaking with the wife of an author of a book, and the author has passed on now. The book is called, I think it's just come out, Playing Hurt, H-U-R-T, by John Saunders. John was a sports commentator. Not that I ever watched TV, because I've never even heard of the guy. And certainly I wouldn't be watching sports anyway. But I'm sure many of you have heard of him. And to hear what this dear man had to endure as a child and as an adult, wow. So you may want to support the efforts, of him, even though he's passed on. And this book is called Playing Hurt. I can't recommend it other than this is what I could pass on. Sounded very interesting, and who knows, I might take the time to explore it, although I have a lot on my plate these days. So, at any rate, this thing that I went to over the weekend, it was a training period, and it was a remarkable training period, and it had to do with health and remaining well, and there were doctors and lawyers and scientists and physicists and nurses and school teachers and people representing Western modalities and alternative modalities and normal people like a realtor and your neighbor next door and the gal that's a track runner, etc. And they all came to share some of their experiences, and it was very, very elevating and inspiring. And during the session, I met, I am not one to particularly enjoy these the lunches and the dinners and things like that. If I'm with a large group of people, and this was over 200 people, I want to kind of back off and go to my room and just push a reset button and have a protein drink, right? Well, something kept propelling me, and then I could actually hear the inner voice saying, no, you are going into these luncheons and dinners and buck up and cheer up. Well, I met a couple of extraordinary people. One of them, and this is for any of you who live on the west coast of Florida, this was an extraordinary man. He's a composer. He's a music therapist. He's an artist. He's a pianist. But he introduced himself as a composer and music therapist. This man has researched health and well-being across the globe. He was so well informed and so humble and so gracious, and I couldn't help but thinking, he's a composer, okay? He's a composer of life. And I could sense he's a simple man. There was nothing, he just didn't have to, just his presence made himself known. So he actually plays music and he gives concerts and performances, but he lives in Naples, which of course is the southwest coast of Florida. I believe, if memory serves me, he plays a lot in the Ritz-Carlton there. His name is Kary, Kary. He gave me his CD called Healing Journey Vibrations. I did ask Jeff if he could somehow intertwine it with what I was doing today, but the equipment here today, I'm sorry, Kary, it just couldn't handle it. But I have to speak to you all, and if any of you over there want to contact this man, here's his phone number. It's just that clean and simple, 239-596-3497. Once again, it's 239-596-3497. This music was so astounding, and in his humility, he shared with me his real interest is weaving healing modalities into his music. And the album speaks for itself. It does that. And it's just so filled with a radiance of love and joy and every good thing. So there you have it. That's my new buddy, Kary, with his CD called Healing Journey. And I so wish him every good thing. For those of you who are familiar with the work of Tom Kenyon, I did exchange energies about Tom with Carrie, and he doesn't know him, but certainly he's aware of his work as well. So a very fine group of people. And here's the other thing that this group just allowed me to understand and appreciate. The sky is not falling. There are hundreds of thousands of workers that are infiltrating their good, healthy, wholesome frequencies for all of us. It was absolutely fantastic to see this. Another person that that was there, and I had, because of one of these luncheons, this was an orthopedic hand surgeon. This is the kind of person that was there, and he had just retired and experienced a dreadful boating accident that severely injured his thumb to the point of Western medicine kind of convinced him he'd most likely have to have the thumb amputated. Well, based on the inner journey that this man has put himself on, that darn thumb is regenerating itself. And, whether the tip finally is not available to him, it's too early to be seen. But there was a threat that the whole thumb would be gone. So it was just so joyful to understand, wow, people are tuning into these frequencies and using them, and it's happy time. One other thing, there was a Western doctor who's now kind of a crossover doctor. I love these people. She actually had her training in Germany, very fine Western doctor, and now blends that with every kind of modality that ever in my life made my heart sing. And one of the things she spoke about, which I've heard before and you've heard before, but sometimes we need to be thumped with it many, many times. Full on, without any fanfare. She has no axe to grind. She's not selling anything. She's putting the information out there, as all these people were. She spoke of the danger of your cell phone frequency. And because she still has a bit of a German accent, at first I really couldn't quite understand what she was saying, but she kept saying, go either call my office and get the device that repels the frequency, or it's called Miman. And I'm like, what? Say it again. And here it is, nice and calm and slow. I would suggest you go to this website, M as in Mary, E as in Elaine, M as in Mary, O for Oscar, N for Nancy, and poke around. I printed out 40 pages of their information. And I was enthralled by just that piece of information from this gal, and a lot of other things she said, but this got me back on the pathway of being more cognizant of these energy waves. And so I checked out this website, and there was one thing that caught my attention, which somebody has commented on my stuff. Oh, like fear. I don't want to buy into fear. I'm like, get over it. This isn't about fear. This is about protection. What I had posted on my Facebook thing, which you all know how much I love Facebook, this was about a whistleblower, Dr. George Carlo, Carlow, and he was blowing the whistle on mobile phone devices. Now, these are scientists. These are medical people. That was good enough for me, but about 8 minutes into this 12-minute video, Mark, those of you who have any background with me, you got to check this thing out. About 8 minutes into it, there is a picture of a scientist giving some more validation to the fact that these things are dangerous. Right behind him in the studio, the whole wall, every wall is lined with pictures of ascended masters. And I'm like, you got to be kidding. I was on a high after that. I'm still on a high because I'm like, wait a minute, a scientist in another culture has these ascended masters beaming him information that could potentially save you and me from brain cancer. So I just was so validated that much is happening, and we can't lose heart. We got to keep trusting. We got to keep knowing. And as my friend said today, Renee, she said, we got to keep knowing ourselves. You got to keep doing you. You are the sacred one. You are the one who will bring the light here, now.